ultimately, it is about pretending and, pretending, convincingly. So what I've grown up to believe in terms of, acting is that there's this tremendous depth to whatever craft you decide to adhere to, and that, this transformation happens. And like the actors, when I was growing up, you read about the actor studio, you like Brando, you like this or that. But like, I'm in my late 50s, dude, and, I'm just starting to have this kind of career. So like all these mythologies, they don't really help me when I'm sitting in my trailer getting impatient and trying not to eat craft services.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Marc Maron is an actor. He sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work.
I feel like I need to say this right up front. I think your performance into Leslie is incredible.
Thank you.
An incredible supporting performance, like the epitome of supporting performance. We have a woman doing what I think is a heroic performance. This was her movie, but I think that you brought something very important to this film. You had Michael Morris, the director of To Leslie, on your podcast, and you said to him, because of how I approached it, you said, I was doing things that I've never done before. How did you normally approach roles before? And how was this different?
Well, the major roles I've had, which are only a handful, the first major role I had was playing some version of me on my TV show, Maron. And that's where I sort of learned how to be on camera a bit. It was this sort of learning, curve, and I knew it would be. But eventually I got comfortable with things. And then, I'd done some acting here and there, and I trained a little bit in college and a bit afterwards. But, for me to make it rewarding, I have to figure it out. I always wanted to do it, but I don't have much patience for the process. And I don't chase acting jobs or anything. And I sort of had given up on it at some point. But after, I did Glow, which was a big acting job. And, after I talked to so many actors, I sort of put some things in place in my mind in terms of how to challenge myself. Because I don't know that I love acting. And it's very hard to love acting for me, when you spend most of your time waiting around to do it. Lately, I've been thinking about, maybe doing a play. But for this project, I'd also done a couple little movie parts. But after Glow, I get typecast a bit. So it's really about, what in me do I need to turn off or on, or make bigger or smaller, or take, or work with in a different way. So I know I can be present. I know I can listen, but, making different choices. So for To Leslie, it was sort of a thing where Michael was persistent in wanting me to do the role. I didn't really see it. I didn't understand why. I always assumed that someone else turned it down if someone's being that persistent with me, because I don't see it as my primary thing, the acting, but I've done enough where people can see me. So with this guy, I decided I would take on some kind of accent. I decided that I knew this guy wasn't neurotic. So, and I knew he wasn't really angry in a way that manifests. I knew that, he wasn't really necessarily intense. So there was a lot of things I had to sort of stifle with myself and make choices around how I was going to engage with her emotionally, and also work on the accent. So those two things, letting go of a lot of Markisms and also putting an accent in place that I committed to. And on top of that, staying present and listening within scenes was really how I did it differently. I can always listen, but it was like putting those other things in place. This guy's not me in any way. And other than, I am the guy playing him. And the accent, and to still kind of show up and be there for the work.
Was this the first time you ever did an accent?
I don't know. I did that. I did a Brooklyn thing, in Respect, the Aretha Franklin movie. But there are certain things that are not stretches for me. This was a stretch for me to sort of find confidence to kind of do, an accent. This was a Texan guy, and I just drew confidence from watching, fairly big actors I have watched do accents at different points in their career, relatively badly. So that gave me confidence that, I've seen a lot of big stars do bits and pieces of accents that come in, that go in and out. It's like, I'm not aspiring to be, the type of actor that's going to, build something entirely from the inside and put all sorts of craft in place. But I can do what I can do within the spectrum of what I'm capable of. Without being too hard on myself. So I just gave myself a break on that. But I've done a New York accent before. Yeah.
I'm wondering if like just having an accent also helps you to be a different person when you don't normally do somebody quite outside your person.
Well, yeah, it does, but you're also thinking about enunciation. You're thinking about, you have to put in place a different, like, I don't know from what, like some people are like, I get lost in it, and you don't even know you've done the work, after you've done the work. And like, that wasn't really the case for me. The thing about film acting and TV acting is you're doing, a page at a time, less than a page at a time. So, you can stay in the emotional zone and you can stay in character, but, I had to make choices around the readings because I had to make sure I understood how to say certain things. So the accent does make you different, but it doesn't, it wasn't natural for me, but I think the effect was okay.
Another thing that Michael Morris said in your talk was that one of the reasons why he really wanted you was he saw you in sort of Trust, and that monologue you did that he loved, that he watched over and over again. And, I was thinking, if somebody wanted to make a case for, things changing in your acting career after you met Lynn Shelton, I think somebody could make that case, Glow and Sword of Trust. I mean, you've talked a lot about her, of course, with your personal relationship, but
yeah,
talk about her as a director and how that changed the way you approached this work, if it did.
Well, she had tremendous confidence in my ability. She was, and I didn't. And this Sort of Trust movie really came about because we were going to make a movie together that we were writing, but it never really got done. So she went and put this thing together, and we did this improvised thing. In working with her, also on my stand-up specials as well, I just knew that she understood me. So she was going to sort of come at me in a way that was going to be correct, and I should listen to her. Even though when she directed, I think, a couple of Marons too, didn't she? Even when it was my own show, I would fight her almost all the time. But eventually, she would convince me to sort of, kind of take my time and and sort of trust certain things that I didn't necessarily trust. Like I didn't like taking direction, from her because we were sort of, in love with each other. So it was a complicated problem, a complicated issue. And I don't know if I took it as personal criticism, but I grew to trust her eye and her sensibility because she really is an actor's director, and it's very much about these scenes being genuine. So she and authentic, and she was about that, and I think she saw that in me. So she was helpful in getting me to that place in an acting situation, as opposed to a stand-up situation or just life, which I can sort of do, but in sort of being comfortable with emotional pace and just being in my body around this stuff. I think she was good at bringing that out of me, and because it's all about the emotional and the organic scene between people with her. So, and obviously that gave me some confidence too, the more I work with her.
What did you know about Andrea Riseborough before going into this movie? And
Nothing. I mean, I looked her up and I heard that she was like, this acting monster, in a good way, that she was the real deal. And I watched her Black Mirror, I think, and I got the sense of her. But like I knew, like there was a lot of things going in. So not in terms of my thinking about everything, but I didn't know her at all, really.
did she need anything from you in the beginning? And did you need anything from her, like before you began?
It was like way peak COVID. We were dealing with,
Right.
we were shooting on film. We had, there was nothing natural about the work environment.
Yeah.
Right. Both because of COVID and because of film. Film, like all the takes have to count. We didn't have any time. So I knew that it was her movie, and I knew that both as an actor and as the character, I was there to support her. I understood that. And, and I really, in general, when I'm working with people, it just really comes down to like, do you need anything from me? And it was never anything major, or do you want to run through lines? Do you want to read through? Do you, where are you at? And she was not really, a big, rehearse before the scene person. A couple of times, but it was always just little requests. It was nothing, major. And I knew that my guy Sweeney was, going to be in constant relationship with her as a reactor. I was going to be reacting to her. And then when the scene, I was having feelings about her, but it was always in a reaction. What's she doing out there with the suitcase? How could she not have cleaned this right? So there was always this sort of like, like, what is this lady? And, but I knew, but, when we finally sort of sit down and, have that scene outside where, she asks me about myself, then it becomes a different thing. Then, she's fairly sober in that moment and not squirrely, and she was able to receive it, who I was. So it was really just a give and take of it, and not to be afraid of her, I think, or be intimidated. I don't know why I wasn't, but I wasn't. I think I have it in my head that, like, look, I can only do what I can do, and I can, do the best I can, but this is it. So you've convinced me that you want me to do this. So here we go. And, honestly, Michael had almost zero notes for me.
Wow.
It seems like most directors want you to show up ready to work. That's why they hired you,
It's amazing that, like what you just said, I feel like if every actor could just think that, it would make life so much easier for them, Like,
what?
I have only what I can give, and you cast me, so that's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to just do my best, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to be intimidated by somebody, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I had that scene with De Niro and the Joker, and the weird thing is like, having talked to so many of these actors and famous people, they're just people, and they're flawed people, and some of them aren't even that interesting. So, you realize on a set that it's a workplace, and you're sort of here to do a job. So don't freak out.
Yeah. But that scene outside, though, did you feel pressure because of what has to be done kind of dramaturgically there? Do you know what I mean? Like, there is something that has to, I mean, if it doesn't work, the movie is not going to proceed on in a way that's going to work for us as an audience.
Well, I needed to draw from my own experience and emotions to sort of fill that monologue up dramaturgically. So knowing her at that point as a character and me as my character and what she had already revealed, the type of kind of chaotic vulnerability that was inescapable once she got sober, that, sort of me sharing finally my own struggle with my kids and my ex and also talking about having dealt with someone with alcoholism. It was all there. So I don't know what pressure I felt other than to fill it up with my own emotions and my own experiences. Like I wasn't thinking in terms of the weight of the film. I was really just thinking in terms of, the weight of the scene.
This is why I can't do this work. I would be thinking about that, and then the weight of the movie, and I wouldn't be in the scene.
Well, you never know how movies are going to turn out as an actor. So, and I've learned that just from working with other people. I've learned that not from working with other people, from talking to these guys. It's like, you're going to do what you're going to do, and you might not even end up in the movie. So, that's all you really have. And that's the only thing that keeps me going with acting is trying to make each of those scenes, satisfying on a creative level. Because as an actor, it's really the only thing you have. And it might ultimately be taken away from you.
Hmm.
So, that's why it's such a weird and horrendous job, is that, you're at the behest of the story. And you're at the behest, which is the good thing if you like the story, but you're also at the behest of the director and the editor and, time and money. And you just don't have any control over that shit.
Yeah.
So you better enjoy the scene.
Yeah.
Try to get it right.
And speaking of enjoying the scene, like when Sam Rockwell was on your show, you were saying how you hate waiting in the trailer.
Yeah.
But you said your struggle is like trying to figure out how to make this 10 minutes that you have on camera that day worth it, quote unquote, worth it. And, I have never heard somebody talk about it like that, where it's like you're looking for something that makes this worth your time.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like, actors get away with, it's like, it's such it's hard work, but a lot of it is waiting. A lot of it is preparation, and it's a very specific type of job. And, I think a lot of them are just able to do it fairly naturally. And, a lot of them are, working from a deeper place where someone like Andrea, where, whatever the hell she's pulling from is kind of supernatural. And those actors are rare. But, ultimately, it is about pretending and, pretending, convincingly. So what I've grown up to believe in terms of, acting is that there's this tremendous depth to whatever craft you decide to adhere to, and that, this transformation happens. And like the actors, when I was growing up, you read about the actor studio, you like Brando, you like this or that. But like, I'm in my late 50s, dude. And, I'm just starting to have this kind of career. So like all these mythologies, they don't really help me when I'm sitting in my trailer getting impatient and trying not to eat craft services. So, whatever anyone is supposed to be doing in that trailer, where people are like, well, you got to learn, bring a book or whatever. It's like, I can't help but think it's just a waste of a fucking day sitting in a goddamn trailer for 10 hours, to do, 5 to 8 minutes of film time. If that, dude. I mean, I was on the set of The Joker for like a week and a half.
Yeah.
I was just a prop for most of it, which is fine. I get it. But it's like, what could I be doing? I don't know anything but that. But then, the carrot at the end of that is sort of like, well, I did a scene with De Niro. Okay. Does De Niro give a shit? No. Does he even remember me? No. Did I do okay in that scene? I think I did. It was 2 lines. It didn't really land. And it didn't really, it landed, but no one cared. It was exciting to be able to say I did a scene with De Niro, because I did. But so have a million other actors that had 2 lines. So, what ultimately, was it worth the week and a half in the trailer watching, Joaquin Phoenix toil about, with his weird hair? Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, look, man, I think if it was what I made my life, like I don't know how actors do it. I don't know how they deal with the rejection. I don't know how they make choices around it. I don't know how you sort of reconcile with doing bad movies because it's good money and it's only 6 weeks and it'll probably go right to video or in the garbage anyways. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know the challenges of that. So for me, it's been something I've worked relatively hard on at different points in my life, and I've always wanted to do, and I'm happy I'm getting an opportunity to do it. But really, the way I think about things, it's like, how long do I got to be away from home? I'm not going to go to Morocco for 6 months. It's not my bag. But if you're an actor, you don't think twice about it. If you're in you know what I mean? If you're going to get a big part in a big movie, and
Right.
Gary Oldham's in it or something, and you're working with whoever, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to Morocco for 6 months. I'm like, I would lose my mind. I would not be able to do a good job. So, like right now, I'm up for a role that's going to shoot in Munich for a month, and it's a good independent movie. They're reworking the script a bit now to see if they can make it better for me. And it's really kind of like, it really comes down to like 4 weeks, man. What are my cats going to do? I'm a neurotic person, so. But I think I'm trending toward it, leaning towards it, only because what, I'm old. Why not take the experience? Cats are cats. The place probably won't burn down, and it might be good if they get the script fixed.
I will. I'm a professional cat sitter. I will come out and watch your
Where
cats.
you live?
I live in New York. You can fly me out there.
Not going to help me.
But tell me if
We're going to do it over Zoom.
if you did have, and you mentioned like a play, if you did have this opportunity where it wasn't a wasted time, it was down the street, you can go home to your cats every night. You had a play. I'm building this thing. I want to know, like, if everything works and you don't feel like it's a waste of time, what is that experience for you? Is that going to ignite something else in your inner actor or whatever that's going to?
I don't know. Like, look, man, it's also about, like, there are certain challenges within acting in TV and film acting that I still need to wrap my brain around. Like I'm very bad at reading scripts and understanding what's happening in scripts. I'm bad at it. So a lot of times I don't know, what happened the scene before. I don't know if I'm tired. I don't know if it's a different day. I really need people to tell me, like, what happened before. I got to tell directors, like, what was going on before this? Because, how am I entering this, emotionally and physically in terms of exhaustion or aggravation or whatever. It's very hard for me to put that stuff together. So there are a lot of stuff that I could learn how to do, through experience, but none of them are going to diminish the fact that you have to wait. And it's just the nature of the game, and I get that. Mm-hmm. The thing about a play, and I don't really want to do a small theater play out here in LA at a shit theater. Like, if I had a shot to do a supporting or lead role in a real play in New York City, that would be interesting to me, because, like, you're fully engaged throughout the rehearsal process. You're in that theater, you're watching, you're making choices, you're on stage, you're saying live things in front of live people, and there's a context to it. And, the stakes are high every time. And, every night, when that curtain goes up, you're locked in, man. So that seems, I don't know how that would, change me. I haven't done a play since I was a kid. It would be like nerve-wracking and intense, but it sounds very exciting to me. As opposed to sort of like, a set where, everyone around you is doing their particular job. Some are, probably a little bored, has had enough of this particular scene. It's not like, a bunch of people, like, heightened and hoping that, the play comes off well.
Right.
It's a guy that, a camera puller that's sort of like, all right, we're going again.
Yeah. When I was listening to you talking about To Leslie with the director, I was getting the impression, I don't know, maybe this is just your WTF persona. I don't know. But I was getting the impression that you didn't fully understand how good you are in this movie.
It's hard for me, man. Like, I knew in Sort of Trust, I knew that scene was good. And I knew that movie was pretty good. But like and I also know which I know when I'm watching myself, if I thought that was a good take or not, or, what I could have done differently, whether or not I was fully in it, I can see those things. But I'm not too hard on myself about it, but it's hard for me to tell I mean, I know, I feel like I did a good job in this movie, you know, but it's also hard for me to watch myself sometimes. That's all.
Makes sense.
And I think there was a couple of line reads I feel like I could have done differently or better if we took more time. But, ultimately when you're on set, you know, it's going to come down to like, you got about one of those where you're like, can I just try it this way? And the director goes, yes. But ultimately, if the director signs off on it, okay, he's got what he needs. I'm not going to question him.
Especially on
and
film,
usually when,
right? When you're on
yeah,
film.
and when you're an actor and they're like, okay, we're good. I'm like, oh, let's just try it one more time. And they're like, okay, usually they're indulging you.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know.
There's a moment in the end where I saw it twice, so I was waiting for it again, and where you just say to her, I think or
Oh yeah, how I feel about you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a I can get emotional thinking about it. I mean, the two of you brought a humanity here, and when Michael Morris said that there's a picture of you that he saw in the New York Times, that he said that's Sweeney. And I raced to the computer to look it up because I was like, I bet you I'm going to see in that picture my feeling I'm having.
Yeah.
And
which picture was it?
It was the black and white picture of you like looking up kind of in this like lounge chair. You could barely see the chair.
Yeah.
Nice photo. But there's something there. I think, that's why I'm very excited about what this guy does in the future, because I think he's on to something here. He knew that there had to be this, for this to work with this woman, you had to be a certain way. You had to be embodying something.
Yeah.
And you did it, man. I mean, that's why the movie succeeds.
Well, I made myself emotionally available to her, in the character. Like it just happens. And I guess that's acting. I see, I can't identify it always, but when I'm doing that, I'm present and I'm engaged, and the emotions, show up for the situation.
Yes.
I don't know how that happens, but that's what you want to happen.
Yes.
So like those feelings were genuine, like whatever you're responding to was real.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt that.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that worth it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying like, look, yeah, it is worth it, and when you see yourself in a movie like this, it's worth it. And it is worth it. But it's like, I guess really what it comes down to is you want the opportunity to do, something. I guess it's always sort of like, I would like to try to do a movie that had a lot more of that. I'm a supporting part of this movie, and and it's an important character, but it would be nice to sort of be in a movie where your character kind of moved through this entire arc, a transformative arc.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not my arc to have in this movie, though there was a little one. I stuck with her, and we were able to sort of be there for each other and end up together, but that's not really the story, right? Like, Andrea gets to have a fully transformative arc.
Yeah.
And I guess I had a little one, but I guess it's like, the more satisfying work will be to do that, sure, but to do more of it.
Yeah. Do you ever think about like actually producing something that you can star in like that, getting a writer or even doing it yourself?
I should. I don't know if that, like, it's such a long, like, ridiculous process to get a movie made. And it just sounds so heartbreaking to me. And so, I don't know if I have a story that I'm that committed to. But if something comes around my way, it might be interesting. Yeah, to get involved as a producer and to sort of like, and I'm looking at projects and stuff. The movie that Lynn and I were writing is an interesting movie, but I just don't think it's going to get done.
And why is that? Is it just because
I don't know. It needs a lot of work, and in terms, the story's there, but I don't know if I really want to rework the script. And I don't know who would direct it. I've showed it to a couple of people. I showed it to Nicole Holofcener, and she would work on the script a bit. There's bits and pieces of it that I really like. I don't know if I'm getting too old to play the guy, but I don't know. It was more of this thing that her and I were working on to sort of spend time together, and it would have been great if we'd finished it and she could make it, but that's not the way it went. So like, I don't know if it honors her or anything or me to make it anyways.
I think there's something like important in what you're saying here about the way you approach this that's important for like somebody like me who wants to see something different. Like you're an actor whose life doesn't revolve around acting, and you have a lot of other things in your life that give you passion. So I actually want to see you act more because of that.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It's nice to not be desperate.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to say no to things.
Yeah.
And then, only choose things that sound interesting and compelling to you. I mean, I held Michael off for weeks. I didn't want to do it. But, I'm glad I did.
Well, this is one of the best films of the year for me. And what I say goes, of course, because I'm the only one that matters.
Yep.
So how do we get people to see this? That's what I don't understand. Is that another frustrating part of it?
Look, I don't know, man. Not for me. That's not on me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, with anything I do, it's like, I plug and I plug and I plug and I tell people when I'm coming in their town, but there's always going to be people like, I didn't even know you were here. I'm like, I don't know. What do I got to come to your house? I don't know. It's not, I mean, I don't know what the hell to do with that stuff. It's a competitive landscape, and, that's on the studio and the distributor and, the filmmaker to figure it out. I'll do my part to promote the film, but it's like, I don't know how, something gets elevated. It takes a lot of money and a lot of publicity. And sometimes that won't even work.
Marc Maron, I was always a fan of you. I feel like I'm a different kind of fan now. I'm excited about what you're going to do in front of the camera. I selfishly want you to do it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. And I like talking to you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.